Hello, and welcome to our session on moving staff well-being to the top of the agenda. I'm Michelle Nichols, and I am a persistence to graduation consultant with KDE. This is my 18th year that I'm going into in education, and I've served as a teacher and then a head principal at a high school for nearly a decade before joining Team KDE last year.
And good afternoon. My name is Judi Vanderhaar, and I've spent most of my career in Jefferson County Public Schools, starting as a therapeutic aide. I have been at KDE now for 5 years, so happy to share with you awesome counselors this afternoon.
So for the next 30 to 35 minutes, this is where we're going. So our roadmap starts with a session on nourishing yourselves, how you can take care of yourself, and then we're going to transition into how you can take care of other educators who are in your building by offering a framework to help you think through that strategically.
All right, so when we talk about nourishing ourselves, the first thing, obviously, you all have heard it over and over, right? And as this pandemic has happened, we're now finally getting a lot more attention to this issue. This analogy is definitely, obviously, an important principle, right? We have to care for ourselves first, but it's so hard to do, and it's a daily practice / struggle sometimes for me personally. But this analogy is for a crisis situation. So, and we know that attention to well-being should be ongoing. And had our system been attending to this before the pandemic, we all probably would have been in a better space to kind of cope with it. But, in this situation, as a crisis is happening, as you know, your limbic system, the amygdala, it's kicking in your survival system, and so your prefrontal cortex kind of goes offline, and so that's why the mask is dropping down. But there's been nothing in our system to this point that's alerting us and the importance of putting our mask on. We can say it, but our structures, our demands, all of those things have to change to truly really support well-being. But we're on the road, right? So that's the good news. Now, another piece of good news is that we now have data in the state of Kentucky in every single school about how educators and adults, as you know, this is an old TEL survey, but it's called the Impact Survey. There's a link. I encourage you to look at this data for your own school. But this is providing information about right before the shutdown, what % of adults in your building said that they are concerned about their emotional well-being as a result of their work, and how concerned they are about their colleagues. And what's interesting is no matter what district you look at, even statewide, people are more concerned about their colleagues than themselves in general. And also kind of the yellow bar here is the AIS schools, the Accelerated Improvement Schools. We can just say these are very high poverty schools that are struggling for very good reason. I mean, you have a concentration of a lot of need and oftentimes not the capacity for and resources for the support. But anyway, even in the non-AIS schools, over a third of adults are struggling either quite a bit or a great deal with their emotional well-being before the pandemic. So the good news, again, I mean, the good news is we have data, and we're going to also get another round of data in 2021. So I encourage you to look at that for your school, and also something to lift up and also kind of monitor across time. The other thing we know, and this is just common sense, you all know this from your experience having come back into a hybrid or back in person this spring, but as we're returning, the number of kids at risk have doubled or tripled, and we know not just kids but adults are struggling across the world, across our country, our state, within our schools. So this quote here really typifies what we know, as a teacher said in this one article, it's the most I've cried and felt so alone. So this is a collectively traumatic event, obviously, that we are kind of still in the midst of. And when we talk about nourishing ourselves, in our system, we've been so programmed and conditioned to focus on outcomes and output. And obviously it's for a good reason. That's why we're here in this business, because we want the best outcomes and for our students and thus our community, our society itself. But when we talk about well-being, the most important thing that I have to constantly remind myself, it's the practice itself is the output, because it is truly all that I can control is my practice, and when I get off, getting right back on. And one of the challenges before we talk about the window of tolerance is, what you understand, right, as a model of the human mind. So what's really running our show, when we make decisions, really only 10% is really at the conscious level of awareness. So much of our behavior and the decisions we make are these dynamics operating at the subconscious level. And one of the most important areas in that realm is that little me that lives inside of all of us. And so it's just something important. I think the little me, that if you think about the Russian dolls, the nested, it's all alive and present within us. And sometimes the little me gets activated, right? So that's when we think about the window of tolerance. Sometimes, first recognizing, when I'm out of my window has been a practice for me. So what are the signs? And I know some of you all teach this to your young people, to your students. And I think this is one of the most important things that we can be teaching, right? Is so when we are experiencing trauma or have experienced trauma, our window of tolerance it really shrinks. But as we practice, right? Practice coming back into our window when we're out of it, we widen that window over time. And, two main impacts of trauma is one, either hyperarousal, that hyper stress, that intense stress, or we shut down, right? The opposite. So it's interesting that breath work is one thing that can help us, regardless of which extreme we've moved into, that can help kind of bring us back into the center. And I know, so you hear a lot about breath, and it is so simple, but for me, breath has been one of my most important anchors, because it's something I can always come back to. It's, it's the first thing that happens as we're born, and it's the last thing we do before we pass in this physical body. So we're going to do a box breathing. One thing that I want you to think about adding, you probably know about box breathing. It's used in the military. It's a quick, accessible way to calm the nervous system. I love this video because of the sounds. It's something guided. But one thing I want to add that for you all to kind of consider, if you would like to engage with us today in this very, very short 3 rounds of breathing, is notice, and there's an image here of the physical body, and this is the human nervous system, and we're really walking around with an amazing biocomputer that it's invisible to us, right? So, but what I want you to do is when you're breathing, imagine, and Michelle's going to go ahead and play the instructions. So imagine as you're inhaling, you're going to inhale, but imagine that the breath is coming in every pore of your body, right? So let's go ahead and start. And I don't hear the sound, but it's okay. Let's just, I hear it very, very, very subtly, the sound. So let's inhale, hold, and exhale out of your mouth. Hold, and inhale. And exhale. Hold. One more round. Inhale, feeling through every pore of your body. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. And it shuts off. So yeah, sorry, there's a little, we've been struggling with the sound, so hopefully that works for you, but encourage you to take this PowerPoint. There's a whole 5-minute video of that breathing that really, really, really is a simple yet powerful practice, at least for me. So when we talk about well-being or wellness, what we've known for decades and decades is that each of these dimensions of wellness they're interconnected, right? So just think for yourself right now, which dimension or domain of wellness or well-being might need a little bit of attention in your life right now. Again, these are obviously connected, there are 8 dimensions, but I really like to stick with the foundational 5. So just kind of thinking about that. And then you all probably have seen some of these self-care wheels. One of my favorites is the 6 pillars. There's a self-compassion um, site that is one of my favorites, where you can take the self-compassion test, but also guided practices. There's really important research that I think that, again, this should be something not just for staff, but that we're teaching our young people, because boy, we sure are good at beating ourselves up in our society. And so the tips in terms of like whether you're using the self-care wheel or, is really that you're adding 1 to 2 things at a time. And what research shows is that if you add something, for example, you're going to do the box breathing when you get in your car. So something, a habit or something that you're already doing, like taking a shower, or if you attach a new practice that you want to engage in for your own nourishment, attach it to something that you're already doing, and that is more likely to stick. And one of my favorite things that Michelle and I really love, it's different, right? It goes a little bit deeper, is consider doing this for yourself, and also something you could do with staff, your friends. I've done it with my family. I've done it with young kids in alternative schools, and also with my brother-in-law, who's an executive, who really loves this frame. And it's an activity to really help us kind of refocus on our own joy, our own goals, but also how are we staying aligned within ourselves, right? I often get out of alignment, and so I have one of these in my bedroom, and it helps remind me. So the way that this works is kind of, you have your foundation, right? You're going to just kind of jot down 2 to 3 practices or habits that you want to cultivate, maybe something you're already doing, you want to continue, or, make them specific and very, very simple, right? So, for me, it's journaling at least every other day, or, free dance, putting on music. I'm not a great dancer, but that's very freeing and energizing for me. Okay, so you have these kind of goals, and or these habits rather, and then the next layer is something you want to do or explore for your own joy. So for the rest of the school year, you could do it for a whole year or just for a month. So you decide the time frame, and write 2 to 3 things down of goals that you want to fulfill for your own enjoyment, because that's good enough. And as we do these foundational habits and practices to nourish ourselves, we're more likely to fulfill these goals, kind of a little bit larger, whatever goals or desires to cultivate joy. And then getting to the closer to the top of the pyramid, I really think it's important that we kind of remind ourselves, what is our personal ethos? How do I want to be in this world? What represents my best, highest self? And for me, this is my equation. So it's kind of like you create an equation. Mine is that I want to stay in truth, no matter if it hurts me or another person. I want to stay in truth. That means when I go to Kroger and I got an organic apple, I'm not going to scan it like it's a regular one. Anyway, but staying in truth, right? This is my own personal, and love, and then service, which you all obviously are providing an immense service for lifetimes for people in what you do as counselors. But just your own personal ethos. And then at the top is when you're out of alignment, and when you're out of alignment in life, what nudges you from the inside to get you back to alignment? What is your source of strength? What is your source of strength? So this could be whatever symbol that represents what nudges you from within when you're out of alignment. And that's the potential pyramid. And about self-compassion, you've heard of this. This is not just about strategies, right? This is about shifting our approach, and it's a constant practice. Again, for me, and I've been on this self-healing journey for decades now, and it's a practice. So self-compassion is about being kind to ourselves, which again is very hard for some of us, recognizing that we all share suffering as human beings in this life. And we're connected by our shared experiences, and then paying attention, right? Just paying attention on purpose to our pain, we don't ignore it and we don't exaggerate it, which I could do both of well. And there's tons of research. There's a link here about why self-compassion is so important, because it really does promote well-being. There's really important research about this. It helps us relate better to others. When we're kind to ourselves, we're more likely to be kind to other people. But it makes us more resilient and stay healthy. So there's a link here for you all to do your self-compassion test to see where you fall on the scale. And then two important aspects that, again, just reflect quickly. Do you need more work in saying no? Boundary setting, no to those that are hurting us, or to our own harmful behaviors that we think provide comfort, but we know are self-destructive? Or do you need more support and help with being kind and giving ourselves the attention and care instead of being critical and harsh with ourselves? And then another quick practice that is one of my favorites is really in my journal is just spending 2 minutes. What am I grateful for? Tons of research on the importance of gratitude. What do I need to let go of? And my favorite question, what does my soul, if you don't like that word, what does my best self want to tell me today? And it really forces you to turn within, tune in, and listen, because there's so much wisdom that we are holding within our beings. And another quick practice is just, again, shifting our orientation. So, the merry-go-round when we were younger, we loved going up and down, right? Like life will always have ups and downs. Nothing's as good or bad as it first may appear, right? The seat that nobody wanted to sit on when they were a kid is that boring seat that's about to come up, is the carriage, right? That's the boring seat where grandma sits, which I'm happy to be a grandma today. And sit in this seat, because what this is really you're cultivating an inner witness. So you're really cultivating this, you're observing your ups and downs, and you're not getting so attached to them. But it is a practice, but it's something we always can come back to, is that centering back, shifting our awareness to being the uninvolved witness of the ups and downs in our lives.
So Judi did an awesome job of talking about the ways that you can nourish yourself. And so think about those things as we transition into what we can do to nourish our staff. And my hope is, as counselors, that you have a great professional working relationship with your entire admin team and your principals, so that you can have a lot of influence on the things that you can do to help cultivate a really great environment in your school. So as we start thinking about educator well-being, we have created a framework so that you can think about it strategically, because we don't want educator well-being just to be something that we focus on during Teacher Appreciation Week. It should be practices that we're doing throughout the entire school year. And we feel like there's 3 different areas. If you focus on these 3 areas, then you'll have a pretty comprehensive program in your school. So what we're going to look at is what would fall under compassion, resilience, connection within this framework, systems, processes, and communication, and gratitude, recognition, and celebration. And as we go through each of these buckets, I want you to think about what's currently happening at your school and then what will work for your school. So the first area we're going to look at is compassion, resilience, and connection. And so we are going to throw a lot of different strategies and tools at you over the next 12 to 13 minutes. And we recognize that some of these will work beautifully in your environment and others may not. And so you can kind of pick and choose what you think works best for the demographics within your school. To me, definitely worth at least checking out is the Compassion Resilience Toolkit. And this is something that you can do with small groups within your school. We did this entire curriculum with a group at KDE and found that it was very valuable. It is free. Right now there's ongoing training, so you can reach out to us if this is something that you would like to implement within your school. What I like about it is that it is set up almost like a lesson plan for easy implementation. So you have the topic, you have what you need to plan, you have questions to ask the group. It's just laid out very, very well for easy implementation. And one of the activities within the Compassion Resilience Toolkit is this simple reframing practice called Just Like Me. So if you think about someone who maybe is a little difficult to work with, we all have a few of those, and you just kind of reframe and you say, okay, just like me, this person is seeking happiness in his or her life. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering. And so this is an example of one of the activities that you learn how to do within that Compassion Resilience Toolkit. And we've included links to all of these activities and tools throughout the presentation. Another strategy within this particular category is creating a staff wellness space within your school. So it may mean transitioning a potentially toxic faculty lounge into something that is more beneficial for your staff, or utilizing a different space in your school to create this environment. And we are very excited to announce that this coming fall, we have a student design challenge that will implement throughout the entire state of Kentucky, where students can design their own staff well-being space for their school, and they can submit their design in a contest, and our co-ops will be awarding a prize to some of our winning schools to be able to actually bring their designs to fruition. So be on the lookout for that later this fall. You may want to consider implementing a well-being challenge within your school. It's a great way to build some community among staff members. So that well-being challenge could include a virtual 5K or a live 5K, a steps challenge. Maybe you put together different live well-being sessions that focus on financial literacy, nutrition, physical activity. Maybe you want your team to participate in a book study, and they'll earn points for that participation. If that's something that resonates with you to help you get started, Permission to Feel is an excellent read that you may want to use. What I love about this is that they also offer a free course that is specifically designed for educators, and we've included the link on this page, so you may want to check that out too. I'm guessing that you're very familiar with the Living Well program because it's throughout all of Kentucky, but a couple things that I want to point out that you may want to make sure your staff is aware of. One, they offer health coaching throughout the year, which I think is super cool. Two, you can earn money towards gift cards for completing these activities that we know we should probably be doing anyway, but sometimes we need that extra incentive. So if you, for example, participate in health coaching, you will earn $10 per session. Or if you're completing your step averages, then you can earn $10 per month. So great little added benefit that you want to make sure that your staff is aware of. So I mentioned at the beginning that we are going to provide this staff wellbeing planning tool, and this is an example of what's included. So you'll see for each of these sections, this is the Compassion, Resilience, Connection section, you'll have a list of reflection questions to talk about within your leadership team, a bucket of activities that you can easily pull from, and then a 30, 60, 90-day planning tool that you could use maybe this summer as you're kicking off your next school year. The next section that we're going to talk about in this framework is systems, processes, and communication. And we know as a school, we are always looking at the systems that we have in place and how effective they are. But what I'm going to ask you to think about over the next couple of minutes is, as far as systems and processes and the way that we communicate throughout the building, are we doing that through the lens of educator well-being? So let's say we do all of this hard work in nourishing ourselves, and we're telling our staffs that, yes, you need to take care of yourself, but then we're not really changing anything about the environment that we come to work in every day. Well, it's like treating a sick goldfish and then putting them back in the same toxic water that made them that way in the first place. And so we need to be thinking about what changes can we make to create a better environment for our staff. So to help you through that process, be thinking every time you're implementing something within the school or you're talking with your administrative team, where are the opportunities that we can reduce the burden of staff? How can we streamline communication to all staff members? So if everybody within the school is able to email anyone within the school, think about the number of emails that you're inundated with every day. So one way to streamline that communication is maybe as a counseling team, you say, okay, we're going to send out one email per week in a newsletter to all staff so that they're not receiving multiple emails from us. Or maybe you do that as an entire administrative team. Are you utilizing Google Drive or similar platforms to share documents so that you're not having to email back and forth all day? Do you offer an open door policy so that staff can easily access you, but at the same time have some barriers in place to protect yourself? So for example, we've created a sign that we'll give you the PDF for that you can print yourself for where is the counselor right now. And so maybe you need a mindful moment, and so you're going to put a little paper clip on that mindful moment and close the door for a second, and you're going to practice what you know is good for you so that you can be there for your staff members. Are you looking for opportunities everywhere possible to empower staff with choice and agency over their work? Any place where you can allow educators to have a little bit of decision-making power really makes them feel empowered, and that is helping well-being. And then, are you looking for opportunities to integrate a flipped style or a pre-recorded staff meeting? So maybe there's some type of training that you need to do with your staff. Is it absolutely necessary that everyone show up on a Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock? Or can you do some pre-recording, send that out at the beginning of the week, and allow staff to choose anytime during this week? Just need you to get on, watch the video, maybe complete a task, and then, we'll catch up with you next week or next month with an in-person session. So I love this idea of managing the evidence. So I want you to think about going into a hotel room. When you walk into the bedroom area, you know that the places have been cleaned and tidied because the bed is perfectly made. When you go into the restroom, though, you don't always know that the maid service has been there. One way that they make sure that you know is when you look at the toilet paper, a lot of times they'll have it nicely folded into a little triangle shape. That's the way that they are non-verbally communicating that they have managed that space or cleaned that space. So I want you thinking, what are the ways that you can verbally communicate to staff that you care about them, you care about their well-being? One way that you can do that is through maybe a counselor newsletter that includes a mindful moment or includes information about teacher wellness. I really love using a s'more. I don't know if you've used this before. It's a free resource for creating a newsletter. It has amazing templates in it. There is a paid version as well, and it gives you a little more access to a few more tools, but you may want to check that out that you could start at the beginning of the year. This is another great way to connect with your staff and also to manage that evidence. This is an administrator in Fayette County, and he's going to tell you how he connects with his staff.
Hello leaders, I'm Chris Salyers, Program Director at the Learning Center, an A5 application-based school in Fayette County. One of our core beliefs is to do right by people. And over the years, we've built an intentional system that values open communication, a deep sense of care for one another, and mental health wellness. Social emotional learning has become a part of the new educational lingo lately, but we've believed all along that if the adults in the school experience compassionate care, they can better act with compassionate care for our students. It's all about modeling, right? At TLC, we have a 3C approach to making sure that students have multiple intentional checks throughout their school day. We start with a self-reporting check in the morning, a Connect mentoring program midday, and a conclusion session at the end of each school day. While developing this system, we wanted our adults to experience the same level of care. From this, we created our daily staff check-in. It's a simple Google form that allows us to very quickly know which adults need our attention just in time. The form asks 4 questions. Here's a quick look at that form now. The response spreadsheet provides a really quick glance at the climate of our staff. We've made it a part of our routine to check this at the beginning and end of each day, and to connect on the same day with anyone who scores below a 6. This has become a very powerful administrative tool to become more responsive to the staff needs in our building. We now have a metric for how folks are doing and data to inform our responses. The result is faster responses to student need, clarification of misperceptions, and a more individualized support for our adults. The net gain is that of a workplace wellness and satisfaction, and that has direct impact on student wellness and achievement. If you have any questions or would like to know more about how our team structures wraparound school and community supports, please reach out. Our team is happy to help. I'll put the email below. We're here to serve. Stay safe. Be well.
And to wrap up systems, processes, and communication, just like the other section, you'll have leadership reflection questions, a bucket of options, tools, and strategies, as well as that 30, 60, 90-day planning tool. The last section that we're going to cover of the framework is gratitude, recognition, and celebration. And I guarantee if we were sitting in a room together and I said, is it important to recognize staff? Everyone would shake their head and say, yes, absolutely. But then I would ask you to think critically about the practice that's actually going on in the school. And so if the only way that we're recognizing staff is in whole group meetings, hey guys, you all are doing a great job this month, keep up the good work, then we probably need to think about some other ways that we can recognize others. This is David Novak, and if you are not familiar with him, he is he was CEO of Yum Brands for many years. He is all about building a culture of recognition, and here's why.
Let's talk about merchandising. Who's doing a great job on this? And they're saying, oh man, I'll tell you what, if you want to learn about merchandising, you should talk to Bob. He is the best at merchandising I've ever seen. Now, Bob's sitting across the table for me. Everybody said, oh, Bob, in 4 hours, he taught me more than I learned in my first 2 years. Oh, you should see him with customers. Everybody was heaping all this praise on him. And I looked down and I see Bob, and he's crying. And I said, Bob, why are you crying? These people love you. He said, I've been in this company for 47 years, and I'm retiring in 2 weeks, and I didn't know that people felt this way about me. And my heart just hit me. And, I remember that story every day. Let's talk.
So he goes on to talk about in his books the way that he has recognized others, and we talked about that idea of managing the evidence. And so this is an example of his office where every time he would recognize a staff member, he would take their picture, frame it, put it in his office, so every time you walked in, you knew how much he cared about the people working for him. When you think about recognizing others, do it with a little bit of strategy. So one thing you may want to consider is, how does someone else want to be recognized? Everyone may not like social media praise, for example. So think about at the beginning of the year, putting together a recognition questionnaire on a Google form and ask, what type of recognition do you like? Public, private, written, verbal? What's the best way that I can show you that I appreciate the work that you're doing? And send that out to your staff. Here are a couple other ideas for recognition. It could be sending letters or cards of thanks to your staff. I know my counselor and I, when I was a principal, during the summer, we took some time and we would do handwritten notes to all of our staff, and we would have those notes sitting on their sitting on their desk on the first day of school when they walked in, just to tell them how much we appreciated them and we were excited about a new year with them. You can also think about doing a social media shout out if that's appropriate, celebrating milestones within the school or among educators too. And then we were always looking for ways to connect and to celebrate staff. So I know you've seen the yard signs over the last few years come out. We would do a Holly Jolly cart where we would take goodies around to staff members throughout the year. You could also do that in the faculty room if you prefer to do that. I loved every Valentine's Day, she and I would be heart specialists, and we would dress up as doctors and go out and deliver candy hearts to all of our staff members on those days. So just looking for ways to bring a little bit of joy to their day. Again, this is the 3 parts of the framework for well-being. We would love to see you implement this throughout the next year with your staff. And as always, just a huge thank you to the work that you do. We know that you are busy taking care of others every single day in the job, and you are so appreciated. And we've included our contact information so that you can connect with us at any point if you have further questions, and we absolutely look forward to chatting with you.